Now, in my late teens, I moved to downtown Montreal, where I finally started to understand how this big French-speaking city worked. For instance, instead of ordering lunch by saying, "Donnez-moi deux chiens chauds toutes garnis, s'il vous plaît," like I learned in high school, I learned to say it the way Quebec francophones did. "Donne-moi deux hot dogs, all dress." But there are lots of other lessons, too, when you live in Quebec. Like many Quebec Anglos, I had to adjust to political change, especially in 1976 when the Parti Québécois came to power, and suddenly René Lévesque was Quebec's first separatist premier. And Terry Mosher here gave the whole province some really very legendary advice.
It was a rich historical period back when I first started cartooning in Montreal. René Lévesque was about to become Premier of Quebec, and his nemesis, Pierre Trudeau, was the Prime Minister of Canada. Now, the interaction between those two alone would provide me with more than enough material. The morning after the 1980 referendum, for example, this next caricature appeared on the front page of the following morning's Gazette. But there was something else going on in the Montreal of that day that proved eminently cartoonable. A growing Anglo-paranoia along with a grand exodus to Toronto. Now, I thought of René Lévesque as kind of my raison d'être as a political cartoonist. However, by 1984, Lévesque was gone and the Quebec story appeared to be over. We even had a Montreal Anglo Prime Minister, Brian Mulroney, who took great pride in showing off his chin. In Brian's first year, he could do no wrong. He was like he was walking on water. This gigantic love-in was going on. And I thought I might have to look for a different kind of work. But then that mouth of his got busy, and the bragging and the blarney began, and I was back in business. In fact, Mulroney proved to be my best target yet, but with even better to come. Wonderful characters like Jacques Parizeau, the thing that just wouldn't go away.
By Jove.
And then there was the very intense Lucien Bouchard.
S'il vous plaît. S'il vous plaît.
Bouchard's arch enemy was, of course, Jean Chrétien.
Allô?
But then Chrétien was replaced by another Quebecer, Paul Martin, who promised everything to everybody. But none of us believed a word of it. Martin, he just couldn't get past the sins of the previous Chrétien regime. So Paul Martin paid the price at the polls, being replaced by the only person in the world, sorry Jack, today who actually still admires George W. Bush. In fact, Stephen Harper's a regular Mr. America, isn't he? Harper's other best friend these days is Jean Charest. Now, there are those who say being Premier of Quebec is the toughest job in Canada, particularly for those Parti Québécois leaders who were martyred by their own. Notice that there are 6 sets of holes in this particular cross. They certainly do come and go within the Parti Québécois, supplying us with an array of caricaturable individuals, including my all-time favorite, Madame Louise Baudouin. In 1996, Baudouin was appointed the Quebec minister responsible for making French dominant and in the process practically eliminating English. So I got the idea of drawing her as a dominatrix. And every time I drew her in this way, I received dozens of faxes and emails and phone calls, all asking one thing: please do it again. And so I did, including her in all kinds of conceivable situations when anything came, even as the Grinch at Christmas. Now, I miss Louise now that she's out of the political game, But it turns out that she misses us too. Recently, through a colleague at the National Film Board, I received this signed memento from Madame Baudouin. On one of my cartoons, she has written, Aislinn, je regrette votre absence dans ma vie. Signed, Louise Baudouin.
Louise, Louise, I'm down on my knees. I've been bad and now I'm confessing.
Confess!
I'm loose and immoral. I failed my French oral. Oh, please, won't you teach me a lesson? Terry has a secret.
Not anymore.
She came through my French windows dressed as a French maid with French wine, French bread, and a kiss. We locked her French poodle outside, and I said, Louise, it just doesn't get any Frencher than this. Though she was exciting and très charmante, in some ways her behavior was strange. She insisted on hanging a sign on the doorknob that said, please do not derange. Naughty man, she said, you have broken la loi, so now you are under arrest. You must come quietly, she told me, and so I did, all over her dress. Louise, Louise, I'm down on my knees. At this game I am somewhat newish. Louise, Louise, do whatever you please. Beat me, whip me, tell me I'm Jewish. French must be protected from English, she told me as I was admiring her figure. And I saw that she did have some cause for complaint, for I was at least 1/3 bigger. She took out a tape measure and she gave me a look, and I must say it gave me a scare. Till I saw that she only intended to measure the size of my dictionary. Louise, Louise, I'm begging you, please, let's get married without delay. And then we'll have children, and they'll be allowed to go to school en anglais.